Today we're talking about 6.7, the distributive property, day 2. Go ahead and write this next slide down for me, please. What I want you to notice, I want you to put these little arrows here for me. This means you're multiplying A times B, but it also means that you're going to be multiplying A times C. So directly underneath it, let's write this out. That means A times B plus, what do you think? A times C. Then I want you to write this down for me. The number outside the parentheses is multiplied by everything inside the parentheses. Go ahead and write these instructions down for me. Use the distributive property to write an equivalent expression. Check your answer. The first example, A, says 4 times 2 plus 5. Now, if you look at the instructions, it doesn't ask me to solve it or to evaluate it. What it asks me to do is to write an equivalent expression. Who remembers what the word equivalent means? Equal, okay? So we're writing an expression that's equal to this one. So if you remember, you've got to do everything on the outside, multiply it by everything on the inside. So equivalent, let's put an equal sign. We're going to be multiplying 4 times, what's the first number in the parentheses?
2.
A 2. 4 times 2. What sign do you see in the middle of those parentheses?
Addition.
Plus. So we're going to keep the plus sign. What number was outside the parentheses?
4.
A 4. So we're going to keep that 4. Now, I've multiplied by the first number in my parentheses, 2. I put my plus that was right here in the parentheses. What number do I still need to multiply by?
5.
A 5. And my instructions simply asked, write an equivalent expression, which you guys just did. So that's my answer right there. Box it in. That means it is equal to what the other one is. Now, there's 3 words at the end of my instructions. What are those 3 words? Check your answer. So now we've got to check our answer. The first thing you want to do is go ahead and put your equal sign. Let's do the left side. If you remember with PEMDAS, we learned P stands for parentheses. That means do all of the work inside of the parentheses before you do anything else. So what's 2 plus 5? 7. What number do I need to multiply that 7 by?
4.
A 4. Okay, so that's doing that work right there. Now let's go to the right. Ashley, what's 4 times 2?
4 times 6.
8 plus, what's 4 times 5? 20. Okay, now we're going to check out if this is correct or not. Go ahead and put your equal sign directly underneath so you can keep your work nice and neat. On the left-hand side, Kayla, what's 4 times 7? 28. And what's 8 plus 20? 28. Because that's correct. 28 does equal 28. You checked your answer and it worked out. So that's exactly how you write an equivalent expression, and that is how you check your answer. Any questions on how we did that? Okay, letter B. 6 times 12 minus 2. Same idea, same instructions. We're still going to first of all write an equivalent expression. Remember, that red thing that we wrote at the beginning, everything on the outside is going to be multiplied by everything on the inside. Who thinks that they can do this first one for me? Mason, I want you to write me an equivalent expression. What should it be? 6 times 12. Minus, because there's a minus sign there. Keep the minus sign, okay? Minus what? 6 times 2. That is an equivalent expression. Box it in because that's your answer. Now, Mason, do you feel comfortable enough to check the answer for us? All right, check it out. Go ahead.
First one is 6 times 12 is 72.
Okay, you got to do the parentheses. Remember, PEMDAS says do the parentheses first. So do that work inside the parentheses first. What's 12 minus 2?
Is
10. So let's do 10. Multiply that by the number what?
6.
6. Okay, good job. Now what should I do on the right-hand side?
6 times 12
Is?
78.
Good job. What else?
Minus 12.
Excellent work. Okay, thank you for keeping the minus sign and not changing it to a plus. Now let's work it out. On the left-hand side, what's 6 times 10? 60. What's 72 minus 12?
60.
Does 60 equal 60? So it checked out, all right? So you notice right here, you gave me an equivalent expression, and then all of this right here is working out, checking your answer. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Who thinks they can do this one for me? Ashley, try it out. Write an equivalent expression first. Negative 3 times 4.
Plus negative 3 times 1.
Excellent job. Thank you for keeping. She kept this right here, that negative that's there, she kept it there, and she kept the plus there also. Nice work, okay? So let's box that in because that is my equivalent expression. We always want to box our answer. Now help me out. How do I check this?
Put negative 3 times 5,
Good job.
and then we put equal sign, then negative 12.
Negative 12, because every time you multiply by a negative number, if there's only one, you keep the negative.
Plus negative 3.
Excellent job. Okay, now guys, I want us to sing our song about adding and subtracting integers. Let's see if you remember it. Here we go. Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract. Take the sign of the larger number, then you'll be exact. All right, so help us out with that song. First off, we're multiplying. What's negative 3 times 5?
15,
Negative 15, because if you only have one negative, it always stays negative. Good job. Negative 12 plus negative 3.
negative 15.
Good job. Same sign, add and keep. Do those equal each other?
Yes.
All right, so give yourself a little check mark saying that it did check out. Any questions on problem C? Okay, for the last example like this, it's actually kind of switched around. Now I've got 5 times 3 plus 5 times 2. You're still trying the same instructions. Try to find an equivalent expression, but we're kind of working backwards on this one. Who thinks that they can do the equivalent expression for me? Jakari, what do you think I should write? The first thing you want to do is find out what you're multiplying both of them by.
Wait, so I'm just going to reverse it down here. Okay, 5, and then 3. No, put the first.
Okay, you're going to multiply it.
3 plus 2 57.
You are correct, all right? Now box that in. You did a great job working backwards from what the other 3 problems were. Now we're going to still check our answer. Okay, 5 times 3 is 15. You got to bring down your plus sign. And what's 5 times 2? 10. Good job. Now let's go on to the right-hand side. 5 times, do that work in the parentheses. What's 3 plus 2? 5. All right, so now let's go underneath it. Put that equal sign to keep them nice and straight. 15 plus 10 is 25. And 5 times 5 is? Does 25 equal 25? Then that means your answer checked out and you did it correctly. Any questions on that one? Okay, go ahead and skip a line. Write these instructions down. Their instructions are a little bit different, and you'll see this on your homework tonight. Use the distributive property to evaluate the expression. So for this one, we are actually going to be evaluating it and solving it. Okay, so these instructions are a little bit different from the previous ones that we just did. But tonight on your homework, you're going to just look back at your notes, and this will help you out to know exactly how to do the problem. So let's look at the first one. Use the distributive property to evaluate the expression. What number do you see both of those are multiplied by?
5.
A 5, okay? So we're going to put that 5 directly underneath it. I'm pulling the 5 out of both of the numbers. Now I've got to multiply, first of all, 7.2 plus, what other number do I still have to multiply a 5 by? 2.8. Guys, what's 7.2 plus 2.8? 10. Okay, so we're going to bring that down. We do the parentheses work inside the parentheses first, and then still I've got to multiply it by that 5. Guys, what's 5 times 10? 50, and that is your final answer. All my instructions asked it to do was to evaluate the expression. Remember, evaluate means to solve. So we solved the expression. Your answer is 50. Going on to problem B. 5 times 5/6 plus 5 times 1/6. I want to see if you guys can do this on your own. Here we go, first up. What number am I multiplying both of them by? A 5. Okay, what should go in my parentheses? 5/6 plus 1/6. Guys, what is 5/6 plus 1/6? It is 6/6. 6/6 is the same thing as 1 whole. What is 5 times 1? And that is your final answer. Raise your hand if you got the correct answer.
Yeah, I did it too. I got
Okay, let's look right here. Here's the next set of instructions. I want you to go ahead and write this entire slide down. Use the distributive property to find the missing number or variable. If you look at the first one, example A, if you listen to it, you can almost get the answer like that. N times 7 plus n times 3 is the same thing as n times 7 plus 3. Okay, you could just write it in the blank there, just make sure you box it in, or you can box it in directly underneath it. So now, how many of you got the first one correct? Let's look at the next one. Think about it in your head. 4 times 5 plus 4 times something is the same thing as 4 times 5 plus x. What do you think should go in the blank? X. And that is your final answer. Notice, here's a 4. I'm multiplying a 4 and I'm multiplying a 4. That's the same thing as my 4. Notice here, I've got the 5. I've got the 5. Here I had, obviously you're going to keep your plus sign, keep that plus sign. And then I had some mystery number. That means you need to put the mystery number right there. Any questions about that? 2 thumbs up if you understand it. Yesterday, we had an assignment, which a lot of people said they thought was a difficult assignment. This right here is just a review of that assignment from yesterday. So I want you to go ahead and write this down and see if you can answer which property these two are talking about. Okay, let's talk about it. The first one says 10 plus negative 10 is an example of the blank property of addition. Raise your hand if you think that's the commutative property of addition. Okay, it is not commutative property. It has nothing to do with order. I did not switch the order, and you can't tell just by looking at 10 plus negative 10 that I switched the order. So it's not commutative. What about associative? Did I switch the grouping and still got the same answer? No, definitely not, okay? How about inverse? Do you think it's inverse? Yes. What's the key word for inverse? Opposite, all right? So 10 plus negative 10, those are opposites. Oops, sorry. Okay, so you want to make sure you put inverse in there because those are opposites. Raise your hand if you got that correct. Okay, does anyone have a question on it? What's the question? Okay, let's look at the last one from today. 3/5 times 5/3 and is an example of the blank property of multiplication. What do you guys think?
Inverse. Inverse.
Inverse or identity? Does anyone think commutative? Anyone think associative? Okay, so let's look at inverse means opposite and identity means mirror. So remember with mirror, if you multiply anything times the number 1, it's going to equal itself. So let's say 3/5. Does it look right there that I multiplied 3/5 times 1 and got 5/3? Yes or no?
Yes. No.
No. What is the opposite of 3/5? 5/3. So that's what I did here. I multiplied it by the opposite. What keyword means opposite? Inverse. So the correct answer is inverse.
Is fraction.
3/5 is the opposite of 5/3. All right, so that's pretty much everything you need to know for today, 6.7.